In the tender years of my 16th, my progenitors did proclaim to their acquaintances that I was naught but a blunder of the family. Mine own mother did chuckle, gestured towards me, and proclaimed, "The means of birth control doth possess but a 99% efficacy. He doth belong to the elite few." That eve, I departed with but $40 and a satchel upon my back. After the passage of 6 long years, at last, they discovered my whereabouts. Lo, this day they did appear at my threshold, weeping and imploring me for discourse. Cast aside for reasons most evident. Verily, this hath grown lengthy. 6 years of pent-up frustrations doth lead to such a state. From the very beginning, I sensed that I was not the favored one in my kin. My brother Morris was the destined one, adorned with commendable grades and a varsity jacket. The entirety of the offering. Verily, as my mother doth jest at her evening feasts, I am the consequence of placing faith in the less costly wares of the apothecary's embrace. Indeed, most amusing, is it not? Since my tender years of 8, she hath oft repeated that jest. In my youth, I believed it commonplace for one's mother to wield her offspring as the jest's conclusion. Yet thou dost adjust. I have cultivated this skill to wear a smile amidst the barbs, as if donning a shield of emotional resilience. When grown folk inquired of my aspirations for the morrow, I would declare a desire to be a mere deduction, for such was the title my father bestowed upon me in his cups of ale. Folks perceived me as a clever youth, full of jest and mirth. Nay, I was but echoing the mundane discourse of the abode. The eve when all was transformed was the celebration of my mother's birth, yet not the gathering of kin that followed. There we were, a mere quartet gathered at a modest establishment, where our father lamented the cost of fare whilst he summoned yet another glass of his favoured spirit. Lo, the true occasion did unfold 2 days hence, when my mother did extend an invitation to her colleagues from the realm of her employment. These were not mere companions. These were the gentry of the country club whom my mother had long sought to join, striving with fervent ambition for many a year. Our abode lacked grandeur, yet mother embraced the spirit of creativity with fervor for this evening's repast. Freshly adorned table linens, flickering lights, and the fine china that oft lay in neglect. Father was advised to don his singular respectable button-up and, for the sake of all that is holy, to limit himself to but 5 libations. Morris delivered a discourse most remarkable. Mine own possession is naught. Not even a plea to spare me from such humiliation. That ought to have been my initial portent. The eve commenced with my assuming the role of server, for Michael, thou art called to be of use at last. I did serve forth small delights, whilst my mother regaled us with tales of Morris's prospects for a scholarship in the noble sport of baseball. Father didst maintain his composure through the initial hour, partaking of his libations whilst offering nods at fitting moments. To be unseen, a most fortuitous outcome in such circumstances. Then a soul inquired about the matters of progeny and such like. Verily, a fair maiden adorned with a coiffure most reminiscent of those who seek audience with a steward did proclaim the burdensome cost of raising younglings in these times. It was then that the fateful event transpired. My mother, having indulged in 4 glasses of white wine, bore a countenance I recognized all too familiarly. That I possess a most striking visage. She didst direct her finger towards me whilst I was gathering the vacant chalices. Lo, the art of birth control doth boast but a mere 99% efficacy. She didst pause for effect. He doth belong to the elite few. All did burst forth in mirthful laughter. Even mine own father, who oft merely lingered in such moments, did emit a hearty guffaw as if he had encountered the most mirthful jest ever to grace his ears. There I remained, grasping soiled chalices, as the mirth of the crowd echoed around me, mocking the very notion of my existence, which was never meant to be. Morris found no mirth in the jest. He gazed upon his plate as though he yearned to vanish into the very fabric of the meal before him. At the very least, one soul amidst that gathering possessed the virtue to experience the weight of shame. Yet, what dost thou deem the most lamentable aspect? My mother had yet to complete her task. Lo, we have already been blessed with our ideal offspring, she proclaimed, gesturing toward Morris. Michael, behold the folly that doth plague our kin. Increased merriment. Verily, I do believe it was mine father superior who did utter, Alas, I wager that shall surely leave a mark. As if we were ensnared in a most wretched farce of a play. I did not cast aside the glasses. I did not raise my voice in terror. With utmost care, I placed them upon the table and ascended the stairs to my chamber. None did perceive. The discourse had swiftly transitioned to tales of a sojourn in the sun-kissed lands of Cancun. I reclined upon my bed, and a certain something within me didst simply extinguish, as when one draws the curtain on a stage where too many players have taken their part. The visage of emotion turned to a deep azure, then succumbed to the void of darkness. In the depths of my heart, I sensed the hour of departure was upon me that very eve. I seized my satchel of learning and cast forth the tomes within. What need have we for the angles and measures of the heavens when the spectre of destitution looms so near? Prithee. I gathered the necessary items with great care. 2 tunics, a pair of trousers, undergarments, and a dental implement. The sum of $40 bestowed upon me by my dear grandmother, which I had been diligently preserving for the acquisition of a new game. Mine own device for replenishing the power of my communication apparatus. The provisions of sustenance I stowed away for those moments when father neglected to procure victuals from the market. Morris did approach whilst I was engaged in the act of packing. Our words were few. He was aware. He had likely foreseen this turn of events ere I did. He bestowed upon me a sum of $120 from his own hoard, along with an aged device that, though still functional, was severed from the family's plan. He did declare that upon the morrow he would bestow upon it the sum of $20 in prepaid minutes. They shall remain oblivious to thy absence until the morrow's sun doth reach its zenith, he proclaimed. Not blameworthy, merely a matter of truth, as though he were imparting tidings of the skies for my voyage ahead. I was on the verge of despair then. Having nearly unburdened myself of all possessions, I nestled into my chamber, bracing to rise once more as the jest of the kinfolk. Yet, from below, I discerned a chorus of mirth, accompanied by my mother's voice ascending, remarking upon the vexations of youthful disposition. Alas, I shall not abide by that. Nay, I had reached my conclusion. As the clock struck the hour of midnight, I lingered in silence, for the abode lay still and hushed. Mother and father had both succumbed to slumber after partaking in their chosen libations of wine and whiskey. Morris didst leave his desk light aglow. Our ancient call from days of yore, when one amongst us would stealthily venture to the kitchen in pursuit of delectable morsels. All is made manifest. No missive did I leave behind. What was it that I intended to express? Gratitude for bestowing upon me the sensation of being a blight upon thy flawless kin for these 16 years. The eve was frigid. As the waning days of October draw near, a certain ambience envelopes the air. Though I found myself without a destination, it seemed a more favorable plight than remaining in my current state. I wandered forth until I chanced upon the ever-open establishment of Golden Arches, where I sought refuge in their wireless connection to discern my forthcoming course of action. Found myself aboard a greyhound, journeying to the neighboring city. Not too distant, yet sufficiently removed. The initial week proved to be quite arduous. Rested beneath the weary roof of the bus station for 2 nights' duration. After that, a refuge for the young was discovered. They granted me a fortnight's reprieve whilst I secured a position scrubbing dishes at a rather dubious eatery that paid no heed to my tender years. Gold exchanged, which was the essence of the matter. Morris maintained correspondence through this ephemeral email account we established. He claimed that mother wept for the eyes of the world when she spoke of my absence. Then didst lament mine ever-dramatic nature when the constables took their leave. Father, in his inebriated state, proclaimed that I would return when the pangs of hunger did compel me. I shall not return henceforth. Not when the pangs of hunger did twist my belly into a tempest of knots. Not when I lay in a refuge, encircled by souls who did bellow in their slumber. Not when the chill of December descended, and I found myself without a suitable coat. In the 2nd month hence, I chanced upon Ronnie. Lo! He discovered me in slumber's embrace within the break-room of the diner, whilst I was meant to toil over the dishes. Rather than dismissing me from my post, he inquired as to the reason for my absence from the halls of learning. In the dim light of the closing hour, amidst the remnants of chilled fries, I found myself divulging all that lay heavy upon my heart. It came to pass that Ronnie bore his own tale of familial folly. Varying particulars, yet the essence remains most foul. He didst connect me with an opportunity to assist in the noble art of renovation, initially concealed beneath the table, yet thereafter made legitimate upon the attainment of my GED at the tender age of 17. Verily, grant me the grace to repose upon his couch until such time as I can procure the most dismal of studio abodes in this vast world. In those initial 2 years, time seemed to vanish amidst the relentless toil of long hours, the simplicity of instant noodles, and the gentle embrace of slumber while absorbing the wisdom of online lessons on fiscal matters and creditworthiness, all facilitated by the gift of complimentary internet. No companionship to be found, for time was a fleeting spectre. To toil, to preserve, to endure. Morris didst graduate and ventured forth to a college 3 states hence. Wise decision indeed. Our correspondence continued, yet with diminished frequency. He did tread upon the path of his own existence, whilst I endeavored to construct my own from the very foundations. In the 3rd year, I began to sense a return to my former self, as if the essence of humanity was once more stirring within me. Once did I dwell in a chamber free from the unsightly presence of mold, embarked upon the noble pursuit of knowledge through the medium of online community college classes. Indeed, I ventured forth on several Tinder encounters that did not culminate in utter calamity. Mine progenitors. At long last, they discerned that I would not return, humbled and contrite, by the 5th moon's passing. Submitted a report for one lost to the world, yet it bore no fruit, for I toiled and fulfilled my obligations under the name bestowed upon me by law. They put forth but a meager effort in seeking out the error. Morris did inform me that, by the time I reached my 17th year, they had transformed my chamber into a place of physical exertion and vigor. Father hath procured my collection of baseball cards, which doth possess true value. Mine mother did proclaim to the neighbors that I was ensconced in a most esteemed institution for wayward youths. In that moment, I resolved that this venture transcended mere flight from my circumstances. This matter pertained to the transformation into a being they would lament the absence of, one who would awaken them to the value of what they have cast aside. I have ceased to harbor wrath perpetually. Fury doth consume the very essence of thy strength required for ascension. Instead, I found myself beset by a chill. Contemplating the numbers. Commenced pondering upon wealth not merely as a means of existence, but as a force of dominion. With each coin earned, each commendation bestowed upon my scholarly pursuits, and every newfound talent acquired, I laid another stone upon the barrier that separated me from that table of merriment, where I once lingered, burdened with unclean vessels, whilst laughter echoed around me. Lo, 6 years have passed since that fateful day. In the bloom of my youth, I find myself at the tender age of 22. Lo, I possess mine own abode, mine own existence, and a fellowship of friends, chosen by mine own heart, who truly care for my well-being. Only Morris doth possess the knowledge of my whereabouts, and he hath pledged his troth to silence. Or he might have been, until the week passed, when he did summon me to impart the tidings that our progenitors are searching with great fervor. Forsooth, they find themselves in want of something. It appears that the fates have conspired to demand their due, as the Bank of Karma seeks to collect upon its long-held debts. And what of me? I am the harbinger of debts, the spectre they did not foresee. The weight of emotional burdens grows heavier with each passing day. Hark! A missive of renewal. Pray, what a surprise! I did not foresee the initial act to ascend to such heights. Alas, my inbox doth rest in peace. Gratitude I extend for the accolades and affirmations that I am not the mad one in this tale. Forsooth, to those inquiring if this be true, alas, it is indeed so. Some particulars have shifted for reasons clear to the discerning eye, yet the essence of the tale remains a reflection of mine own existence. Would that it were not so. Verily, I shall resume from the point at which I didst pause. The initial twain of years post-departure were akin to a struggle for existence. Toiling through the long hours, subsisting on frugal noodles, and resting upon a mattress salvaged from the refuse. Refrain from casting judgment. I didst cleanse it with great fervor and diligence. In yon public library, I would peruse mine email, whilst Morris did regale me with tidings of the affairs at home. It seems that my parents devoted a fortnight to the search, and by search, I refer to my mother sharing a series of theatrical updates on the social network, accompanied by my likeness from school, eagerly seeking her daily ration of sympathetic responses. Father summoned but a pair of my companions from the halls of learning. Thus was the measure of their quest for the child who had vanished from their sight. In the 4th month, Morris did send me a glimpse of my mother's proclamation upon the realm of Facebook, wherein she did declare the transformation of my chamber into her envisioned sanctuary of fitness, adorned with a Peloton imitation and those ornamental weights that seldom see the light of true exertion. That missive garnered greater attention than any concerning my absence. Allow that to settle within thy mind. By the 3rd year, I had amassed sufficient funds to pursue my studies at the local institution of higher learning. Not the grand affair of face-to-face encounters, but rather the modest, virtual engagements one partakes in after toiling through the day's labor. Mine back did ache from the stoop of mine form o'er a contraption of modernity, set upon a makeshift altar of 2 milk crates and a door. Yet that anguish bore a distinct essence. Fruitful suffering. In the pursuit of knowledge, I delved into the realms of commerce and the art of fiscal stewardship. Not for the fervor of spreadsheets did I embark, but rather to grasp that currency is but a dance of numbers, indifferent to one's desires or worth. In that moment, I chanced upon Zoe within the confines of a virtual assembly for scholarly pursuits. She did send me a missive in private after I hath rectified her Excel formula amidst our collective endeavor. We commenced our discourse through the medium of video, first concerning our scholarly tasks, and then meandered into a vast expanse of other matters. She possessed a wit most keen, diligently pursuing her paralegal certification whilst toiling at a law office. Our initial encounter in the realm of reality transpired at a melancholy café, situated midway betwixt our abodes. I was filled with great trepidation. Adorned in my solitary respectable garment, which bore a modest blemish of pasta sauce that I endeavored to conceal with a mere writing instrument, she did appear, her tresses gathered in a dishevelled bun, spectacles perched upon her nose, and a smile so radiant it banished the weight of familial folly from my heart for a span of 3 hours. Upon that fateful eve, I laid bare my soul to her, revealing all that dwelt within my heart. Anticipated her swift departure. Instead, she bore a countenance most peculiar. Not compassion. Something more frigid. She recounted tales of her own mother, a figure steeped in toxicity, who wielded her as a vessel for emotional torment. We were akin in our afflictions, yet varied in our expressions. Zoe hath transformed mine outlook. Where I beheld the struggle for existence, she discerned a chance for advancement. She would gesture towards the listings of estates whilst we dined upon take-out upon my humble floor, proclaiming that the worth of yon structure was misaligned with the patterns of growth in the surrounding realm. In the interim, Morris didst keep me apprised of matters at home. Father's libations did increase in measure following his dismissal from gainful employment. Mother's ascent in the realm of society met its limit when her esteemed companions discerned her inability to maintain the necessary fiscal stature. Lo, their burdens of debt did mount with each passing day. They would undertake the refinancing of their abode on 2 occasions. Morris hath completed his studies and ventured forth to seek his fortune in employment. Witty youth! He alone possessed the knowledge of the city wherein I resided, yet the precise location of my dwelling remained a mystery to him. We possessed a system of utmost urgency. If he were to ever send a missive regarding the blue waffle, a most unsavory jest from days of yore shared betwixt us, it would signify that our progenitors had, in some manner, discerned my whereabouts. In the 4th year, I did commence to make true strides forward. Hath I ascended the ranks of mine employment on 2 occasions, relocated to a dwelling where the neighbors refrained from their midnight clamor, and commenced the noble pursuit of establishing credit with a secured card. Petty triumphs that bore the weight of grandeur. I found myself utterly captivated by the realms of personal finance discussions on subreddits and the enlightening offerings of YouTube channels. Gained wisdom regarding the realms of investment accounts, the art of compound interest, and the noble pursuit of credit building. Each coin I amassed seemed akin to a stone laid in the fortress that stood resolute against the specter of dependence upon my progenitors. At the dawn of the 5th year, Zoe took her abode alongside mine. Our abode was not adorned with opulence, merely a single chamber equipped with reliable contrivances and a bathing facility that did not unexpectedly turn frigid, yet it was ours to cherish. We would repose upon our well-worn settee, partaking in frugal stir-fry, whilst devising our fiscal strategies as though we were a pair of lovers orchestrating a grand celebration. In that moment, Morris unleashed the inaugural revelation. He did summon me with a call, rather than our customary exchanges of written word, which forthwith raised the spectre of concern. Father hath lost their abode. Not at once. They found themselves in a dire predicament, teetering on the brink of loss, as the relentless advance of the bank drew near. Upon the passage of many seasons, the burdens of refinancing, the spectre of missed payments, and the ambitious ventures of the father had at last conspired to ensnare them in a web of consequence. In a span of 60 days, the spectre of eviction loomed large, and in that moment of desperation they recalled the existence of a son, long forgotten. Mine own mother hath commenced to share ancient portraits of my infancy upon the realm of Facebook, yearning for my dear child with each passing day. Pray, share this missive to aid us in our quest to locate Michael. Missing son. Haste thee back, dear Hash. The very images she found no inclination to share whilst I was truly absent. The remarks were of the finest quality. I did believe him to be at a place of learning, far removed from home. Didst thou not declare that he hath enlisted in the military? Mine own cherished selection. Is that not the chamber thou hast transformed into thy place of exercise? It seems that my father hath taken to joining various gatherings on the Facebook platform, where parents of estranged offspring convene. Commenced the portrayal of a sorrowful sire, yearning fervently to mend the bonds of kinship. Morris did declare that he managed to maintain sobriety for a span of 3 weeks, yet alas, he succumbed once more to the temptations that led him astray. From afar, I beheld the unfolding tale, gleaning insights through Morris's missives and by stealthily perusing their digital chronicles. A chill began to take root within my very being. As we partook in our evening repast, she would oft find me gazing into the void, counting figures within the confines of my mind. She made no effort to dissuade me from the course I had set upon. Instead, she did assist in its refinement. In earnest pursuit of prosperity, I hath diligently set aside and wisely invested, leading a life of modesty whilst crafting a bounteous portfolio. Not a vast fortune, yet sufficient to set forth upon some ventures. Zoe, with her keen insight into the law, illuminated the intricate angles for me through her paralegal expertise. In that moment, we devised our scheme. I reached out to the institution managing the financial obligation of my progenitor's abode, adopted an alternate appellation, established a limited liability company. I did convey my keen interest in acquiring properties that bear the marks of distress within that particular neighborhood, proffered a proposal regarding their particular loan. Financial institutions heed not the identity of those who acquire the burden of debt, provided their coffers are filled in due course. 3 weeks hence, and amidst a mountain of parchment, I found myself the possessor of my progenitor's debt upon their dwelling. Unbeknownst to them, a debt had been incurred, for the shelter that did grace their heads was now my due. I did not hasten to bring about the end forthwith. I did long to bide my time until they did discover my presence. Until they arrived, imploring for assistance, unaware that their monetary destiny rested within my grasp. Zoe deemed it a fitting retribution, steeped in the essence of verse. I named it the art of reckoning the accounts. In the interim, my mother's fervent endeavor upon the realm of social media to seek my whereabouts was gathering momentum. A certain assembly of townsfolk upon the digital scroll did share her missives. Folks delight in a tale of kin gathering, particularly when the verity remains shrouded in mystery. 1/2 year hath passed since the error did occur. Morris did grace us with his presence for the weekend's duration. Shared a tale upon the digital scroll, capturing a moment of merriment at a quaint eatery. A locale adorned with a singular mural in the backdrop that proclaimed the essence of our fair city. He did erase it post-haste, yet his mother had already laid eyes upon it. The words began to pour forth in abundance. Morris did present unto me his device, which bore the weight of 27 unheeded missives from his mother. Is that Michael, perchance? Or might it be another soul that bears his name? Pray tell, could it be he? Pray tell, where dost thou find thyself? Morris dispatched the urgent missive of the azure waffle that fateful eve. We did jest and let it pass, as if it were but a fleeting shadow upon our merriment. What odds were there that they would indeed discover me amidst a throng of 2 million souls, guided solely by the whisper of a single mural? Fairly well, it seems. When thou art in dire straits. Fortnight past, Morris did make a call. My mother hath enrolled in every assembly upon the Facebook platform for our fair city. Dispersed my youthful likeness far and wide, in search of my beloved son, with a lamentation of our woeful parting, steeped in sorrow and despair. Verily, just yestermorn, the neighbor from yonder hall did speak of one who inquired after my whereabouts. Presented unto me a likeness of the screen. My mother, in her curious pursuit, had stumbled upon the communal page of our dwelling and was engaging in correspondence with the inhabitants therein. On that fateful day, I did secure our locks anew. A fragment of my soul yearned to flee once more, to embark upon a fresh beginning in a realm anew. Yet, fair Zoe didst remind me. Now, I possess their dwelling. I possessed every advantage. Perchance the hour hath come to engage them in sport. 3 days hence, it did occur. Whilst I toiled within the confines of mine abode, the sound of the buzzer didst break the stillness. Upon mine own device, I did peruse the watchful gaze of the security apparatus. Huzzah for the affordable wonders of modern dwelling contrivances! Lo, there they stood. Mine parents, positioned at my threshold, appeared aged and markedly more forlorn than I recalled. Father hath shed some pounds. Mother had acquired it. Both appeared as though the sands of time had conspired against them, leaving them weary and restless, as if the night had stolen their slumber for many a day. Father didst sway from foot to foot, as though in dire need of a draught. Mother grasped her satchel as though it held the final vestige of her honor. I made no reply. Beheld them strike the buzzer thrice more. At last, they did leave a missive penned by hand, imploring me to reach out regarding a matter of utmost urgency within the family. Morris did summon me that eve. Affirmed that which I had long surmised. They didst linger about the dwelling. They found themselves in dire need of coin. They required their folly to deliver them from their plight. For the ensuing 2 days, I engaged in diligent preparation alongside Zoe, collecting parchments, rehearsing mine utterances, how I would maintain my composure, how I would not grant them the pleasure of beholding the wounded soul they had forsaken. On the morn of yester-eve, the buzzer did sound once more. Identical countenances of despair captured upon the lens. This time, I summoned them forth with a gentle call. After a span of 6 years, the hush was on the verge of being broken, and they were blissfully unaware of the fate that lay in wait beyond my threshold. The folly they jested upon, he hath now claimed their dwelling, and recollections are not the sole obligations that accrue their due. Last tidings. Mine hands did tremble most mightily when I summoned them forth, not from trepidation, more akin to the sensation that follows the consumption of 3 elixirs of vigor upon a voided belly, that curious electrifying sensation wherein one's form doth waver between the realms of exhilaration and the throes of dread. This moment hath been long envisioned in the chambers of my mind. Practised mine utterances with great care. In solitude, I rehearsed the myriad expressions of my visage before the looking-glass, as though possessed by a tempestuous spirit. Yet when the fateful rap upon the door did sound, all those well-practised orations took their leave. Zoe did clasp my hand with gentle fervor ere she made her way to our chamber. We had come to a pact that she would remain hidden in the shadows at the outset. This initial encounter was solely between myself and them. To unfasten that portal was akin to stepping into a realm of dreams, as in those visions where one finds oneself once more in the halls of youth, clad only in the barest of garments. Except I was adorned in garments, whilst they stood in a state of exposure. Mother appeared diminished in stature. Her tresses were now adorned with a hue of artifice, not of the finest polish. The exquisite purse, a marvel of design, had vanished into thin air, substituted with an item from a bargain emporium. Father hath aged a span of 15 years and 6. The burden of excess libation hath departed. Yet all else did follow suit. His visage appeared as though it were drawn inward, a shadow of its former self. Flesh doth sag where once the fullness did reside. The stillness lingered for a full 10 heartbeats, until my mother, with a curious noise akin to a strangled gasp, endeavored to embrace me. I did withdraw my presence. The denial struck her as though a heavy hand had descended upon her heart. Father merely gazed in silence. His gaze flitted about our humble abode, beholding the fine furnishings, the clever device for viewing entertainment, the proof that his folly lay not in dwelling amidst filth. Upon the first sight of the scene, my mother was overtaken by tears, a response I had anticipated with certainty. The art of emotional persuasion was ever her native tongue. Father endeavored to don a semblance of nobility, inquiring if they might enter to engage in discourse. I did allow them to proceed, yet I made no gesture of hospitality with drinks or places to rest. Let them linger in my abode, as unwelcome visitors peddling their wares, casting an air of discomfort upon the space. Mother oft proclaimed her disbelief at having discovered me. How she had ne'er ceased her searching. How many nights she wept in slumber's embrace, pondering my safety in the shadows of uncertainty. Father did acquiesce, much like a mere trinket upon a chariot's front. Neither did they speak of the chamber that once served as my sleeping quarters, now transformed into a place of physical toil. How curious it is that such particulars elude one's memory in times of need. At long last, I inquired as to the reason for their presence. Not the discourse they desired to engage in. What manner of fate hath brought them to my abode after the passage of 6 long years? The visage did shatter forthwith. Mother's feigned lamentation ceased abruptly, as if the very breath of sorrow had been snatched away. Father's shoulders drooped yet more, burdened by unseen weights. They shared a glance reminiscent of days long past, echoing the innocence of youth. The moment they experienced when the card was met with refusal at the market of provisions. In that moment, the verity didst flow forth. They found themselves on the brink of losing their abode. The bank didst commence the act of foreclosing. All means had been employed. Adjustments to loans, reconfiguring of financial agreements. Even a humble collection that garnered a mere $87 from kin weary of their monetary woes. They sought a refuge to rest their weary heads. They found themselves in dire need of coin. They required their folly. I inquired as to why they had not sought the assistance of Morris. The disquieting movement commenced. It appears they had indeed done so already. Morris had bestowed upon them the sum of $3,000 half a year past. Funds he could ill afford, being a recent scholar burdened with the weight of educational debts. They had swiftly traversed its depths in mere weeks and returned forthwith for additional bounty. Morris had at last drawn the line. Thus, they had uncovered their contingency scheme. Mine own self. The most peculiar spectacle was witnessing their transformation from a state of desperation to one of cunning right before mine eyes. Mine maternal figure's gaze did flit about, as though she were appraising the worth of my possessions with a keen and calculating mind. My father inquired with a light heart about my labors and the coin I earn. They were weighing what spoils they might glean from my being. I did convey unto them my need for a moment's respite to ponder deeply. Mother did promptly urge, declaring that but a fortnight remained ere the spectre of eviction loomed upon us. Father did declare that a sum of no less than $10,000 would be requisite to procure a new abode. Furthermore, assistance with the deposit is sought. The count did steadily increase as their discourse unfolded. After a span of 20 minutes, I bid them farewell, vowing to reach out on the morrow. Mother did attempt to invoke a sense of remorse within me for failing to embrace her in farewell. Father endeavored to feign that all was as it should be, as if they had not cast aside a youth of but 16 winters, leaving him to wander without shelter, and then turned a blind eye to his plight for countless seasons. As soon as they departed, I found myself in a moment of despair within the confines of the kitchen. Zoe discovered me upon the floor, caught in a fit of laughter, yet tears did mingle with my mirth. Alas, this doth not shine as my finest hour. She made no effort to mend it, merely took a seat beside me and bided the time in silence. Upon that eve, we did conclude the scheme. The morrow, I did summon them forth and extended an invitation to partake in a repast, not within our humble abode, but rather at a modestly esteemed establishment where I hath secured a chamber of privacy. They consented with a haste that aroused suspicion. Upon their arrival, they discovered not merely my presence, but also that of Zoe Morris, who had journeyed hither that very morn, and Ronnie, my true kin. The souls who stood steadfast in the hour of need. The expression upon her mother's visage, when she comprehended that this was no clandestine exchange of coin, was truly beyond measure. Father appeared as though he yearned to summon forth a double measure of whiskey, yet hesitated, uncertain if the burden of payment rested upon my shoulders. Once all were gathered and their cups filled, I commenced the proceedings. Then I did impart unto them my knowledge of their financial plight regarding the mortgage. Their countenances transformed from bewilderment to a glimmer of hope. They believed I was extending my hand in aid. In lieu of other actions, I did set a folder upon the table's surface. Within lay the parchment of obligation, revealing that I, through mine own limited liability company, had assumed possession of their encumbrance. Their abode was, in truth, mine by right of ownership. Mother's visage turned pale as the moonlit night. Father's visage turned crimson. Morris cast his gaze upon the vessel of water, concealing a grin beneath a veil of contemplation. Zoe beheld them with a frigid, discerning gaze, akin to that of one scrutinizing a specimen in a laboratory. I did expound, with a demeanor both serene and lucid, that I possessed choices aplenty. Verily, I could enact the foreclosure forthwith. Verily, I could present unto them a scheme of payment most burdensome, one they could scarce bear to meet. Verily, I might permit them to dwell as tenants, yet only under the most stringent of stipulations. Or, and herein lies the twist, I might convey the dwelling unto them, unencumbered and without charge, should they fulfill particular stipulations. Firstly, they must openly confess the manner in which they have wronged me, not solely to kin, but to their companions, neighbors, and all who dwell in their circle. The very souls who had once chuckled at the jest of the 1% were now in dire need of hearing the tale that followed. Secondly, they would partake in familial discourse alongside myself and Morris. Not to mend our bond, but rather so they might perceive, through an expert's testimony, the profound impact of their actions upon their offspring. Thirdly, they would enter into a solemn pact, binding in law, that they would henceforth refrain from seeking my aid in matters of coin. Mother did weep, truly, in earnest this time. No spectators to grace the stage, merely authentic astonishment. Father gazed upon the parchments as if they were inscribed in a tongue long lost to the sands of time. Morris at last found his voice, declaring that they ought to express gratitude, for what I presented was indeed more than just, given their past actions. He recounted how he had observed my rise from the depths of obscurity whilst they supplanted me with mere apparatus for physical toil. The repast was a most torturous affair. Mother did oscillate betwixt a tempest of ire and a sorrowful lamentation, seeking to sway the hearts of those around her. Father remained in a state of bewildered quietude, save for a singular instance when he inquired if my actions were wrought solely to inflict pain upon them. I did convey my refusal to him. I undertook this endeavor to bring harmony to the accounts. They cast me aside when I bore no worth in their eyes. Now they sought to regard me as a mere vessel of gold, summoned only in their hour of need. Such is not the manner in which kinship doth operate. Such is not the manner in which matters unfold. They departed, having not acquiesced to my conditions. I bestowed upon them the span of 2 days to reach their resolution. Those 2 days were most peculiar. I experienced a duality of strength and emptiness. Zoe didst persist in her attentions, bringing forth tea that I did not partake, and taking her place beside me whilst I gazed into the void. Morris took his place upon our humble couch, serving as a shield against the unforeseen intrusions of parental visits. Upon the morn of the fateful deadline, they didst appear once more. They appeared vanquished. They did acquiesce to my conditions, not from a comprehension of their misdeeds, but rather from a lack of alternatives. The documents were executed with nary a hint of tumult. I did summon Zoe's esteemed colleague, a notary, to bear witness to all that transpired. The consequences that have ensued are fraught with complexity. They have honored their promise thus far, perchance due to the knowledge that I possess duplicates of all and could pursue legal recourse. Mother didst share a lengthy lament upon the realm of Facebook, a missive steeped in self-reproach, yet somehow cast her as the wronged party still. My father hath summoned me twice, each discourse fraught with discomfort, as he endeavors to discern whether my ire yet lingers. Morris did return to his abode yester-eve. Prior to his departure, he embraced me with great fervor and proclaimed his pride in my actions, asserting that I had accomplished what he lacked the valor to undertake, to hold them to account. Is this a quest for vengeance? Perchance, yet it doth seem more akin to rectification, akin to at last restoring harmony to an equation that hath been askew for 22 years. Am I in a state of bliss? Verily, not so. Contentment is a more fitting term. The ire doth linger still, yet it hath transformed, no longer a searing ember within my breast, but rather a wound that hath at last found its closure. Last eve, Zoe and I did recline in our chamber, engaging in discourse regarding the prospect of acquiring a hound or amassing coin for a dwelling of our own, the commonplace musings of a couple entwined. She inquired whether I harbored any remorse. Upon reflection, I pondered the plight of that youthful lad, a mere 16 summers, with but $40 nestled within his satchel. I recalled the countless nights when hunger gnawed at my belly, the many occasions I toiled through double shifts, fevered and weary, for there existed no safety net to catch my fall. Then I pondered upon the essence of my transformation, how I had forged a creation from the void, and how I had discovered souls who truly esteemed my worth. I did declare unto her, Nay, I harbor no remorse for mine actions, neither the parting, nor the striving, nor the quest for retribution. Some errors may reveal themselves as the wisest choices thou shalt ever undertake. At times, to be among the few signifies triumphing over fate's cruel hand.